What hobby attracts the biggest schmucks? I've had horses most of my life. I love horses more than pretty much anything. However, horse people can ruin it for you. The absolute worst are the entitled girls whose daddies pay for absolutely everything, including horses worth tens of thousands of dollars or more. I guess there might be some guys in there too, but it's almost always girls. They are the most entitled, stuck-up, annoying schmucks you can imagine. When I was younger, I didn't even bother trying to show my horse in Western because I couldn't afford a silver-laden saddle and a $20,000 quarter horse. The judges wouldn't even have noticed me in the ring. Haha. It's like a filter to make sure only the other rich kids can win, right? Story 2. Firearms. I got into target shooting because it helped correct a lazy eye and it's pretty fun, like a math equation plus muscle memory. The culture around it though, well, that's why I'm called Shy Guy at my local range. I'd rather stick the barrel in my mouth and have a conversation with the majority of people there. Even if the conversation starts with, hey, I really like your setup, it always steers headfirst into MAGA cult crap or I would have joined up, but I would have knocked out the drill sergeant schmuckery. Story 3. Photography. I've been doing it since 2017 and I've learned that the most important thing is taking photos I like as opposed to chasing the arbitrary approval of other photographers. Photographers love to gatekeep other photographers' work for arbitrary reasons. Sure, there are objective reasons to say a photo is bad, clip pixels, subject not in focus, etc. But a lot of the commonly adopted rules are imposed on photographers for seemingly no reason other than the preferences of other photographers being spread as gospel. Don't center the subject, don't use a square crop, don't use selective color. All of these rules have no objective basis in separating good from bad photography. They don't teach anyone anything other than conformity to the hive mind. Story 4. Oddly enough, model trains. I'm a trans woman and I love model trains. I only have a small set, but I would love to have an entire room for them. Every single time I've gone to a model train store or even a lot of general hobby stores that sell trains, it tends to be old, judging Christian men. I've been denied service and have had many men try to tell me that trains aren't for the gays, etc. It's wild, like bro, I just want to play with tiny trees and bushes and make a model train go around a track to tick my dopamine receptors. What does my gender have to do with any of this? Story 5. Guns. I love guns, but the gun community is an absolute cesspool, especially for newcomers who don't know where to go. A good 75% of them are racist MAGA types or unhinged individuals just itching to try their toy on a live target. The Venn diagram for these two groups is nearly a circle. That's not to say I haven't met some pretty awesome individuals during my time in the community, even some people you'd never think would be friendly with the only brown guy within a 10-mile radius. I'll never forget being invited to what was a stranger's, at the time, private range. I pulled up and saw the largest Confederate battle flag flying above his barn. I had a great time there after my initial nervousness wore off and I was sure I wouldn't be hunted for sport. Ammo is expensive and the man practically wouldn't let me leave his range until I had emptied basically everything he had, which was, low-key, a terrifying arsenal to casually own. It was the kind of experience that makes me want to get on my soapbox and preach that there is a way for everyone to reconnect despite our differences, but I super duper digress. Story 6. As someone who's trained in various martial arts for over a decade, it's been my experience that traditional martial arts, Aikido, Kung Fu, etc. attract far more charlatans and megalomaniacs than what we call MMA, BJJ, Muay Thai, etc. The reason is simple. MMA is incredibly difficult and painful and skill levels are measured through competition. People with large egos are quickly humbled or filtered out entirely. Losing sparring matches regularly helps you become aware of your shortcomings so that you can improve and grow. It doesn't allow you to believe you are better than you actually are. Many, not all, students of traditional martial arts schools, on the other hand, confine themselves within those schools. You'll often hear nonsense such as, we don't train for competition, we train for the streets. This is actually a subtle way of saying that the techniques aren't tested against anyone actually trying to fight back. Techniques are often choreographed or tailored to a highly specific situation. Furthermore, many owners and teachers at traditional martial arts schools cloak their techniques in spiritualism and grant themselves lofty titles to stroke their own egos. I've been to several schools that had a cult-like atmosphere. Of course, every hobby has its share of schmucks. This is just my 2 cents. Story 7. It's interesting that MMA is the most upvoted answer. I've competed and trained at a high level. Some of my past coaches and training partners were famous boxers and UFC champions. I think combat sports attract idiots, but for the most part, people are extremely nice and friendly. At the same time, I've had the opportunity to work with many folks in academia due to my work, and I've come across a lot of pretentious schmucks, but also many great people. This includes well-known writers and personalities you might have seen in big documentaries. Schmucks are just all over the place. Story 8. From my own experience, car guys. They brag about cars they can't rely on to get them to a gas station. Had a guy brag to me about how much I paid for my car. I got it from a dealer and I said, at least my car runs and doesn't cost me thousands in repairs every year. He was a total schmuck who didn't respect his girlfriend, whom I was originally friends with, but I couldn't handle that either. I can't handle women protecting terrible men while also complaining about them, so they were a crap show in their own fun way. But yes, he's the more recent one. Other than at work or out with other friends, car guys are inbred apes. The only non-schmuck guy into cars I love is Sebastian from Stardew Valley. No one there can do anything wrong. Story 9. Any hobby where people mistake smugness for intellect? Performative atheism is high on the list, and internet Satanism might be the gold medalist. There is nothing thinner-skinned than people whose entire personality is, I don't believe in your imaginary friend. It has to be announced, defended, and admired. The biggest schmuck hobby isn't belief or disbelief, it's turning disbelief into an identity and demanding applause. Story 10. Gotta be cycling. I cycle a lot for commuting purposes, and before I worked close enough to do that, I was just doing solo long rides for fun. I enjoy it, and when I'm out solo and see another solo cyclist, we are friendly and it's usually all good. It's when they start going out in groups that it becomes a huge issue, especially in affluent areas like holy crap, do cyclists start acting like the biggest schmucks you'll ever meet once they're riding in a group setting. Not only do they try to steamroll pedestrians and runners while disregarding all rules of the road, but they're also a schmuck to other cyclists who aren't in their group. It's like they think if they have numbers on their side, they can finally be as schmucky as they want. So yeah, I agree, just with the slight caveat that it applies more to group cyclists and not just random people getting on their bikes to enjoy a nice ride solo or with their kids. Story 11. Golf. There is a dress code and it's not even helpful gear like needing a collared shirt. There is time pressure. As much as you want to take your time and enjoy the shot, if you and your 4-person group takes too long, a solo golfer will get angry and report you. The balls are overpriced as heck. Amateurs don't need $10 plus balls. The gear is overpriced. When used, it's reasonable. The atmosphere sucks. You shoot, then travel and wait for the bar cart girl. I have never once seen a bar cart guy. The courses are expensive to play, like way too expensive. The golf carts are slow at best. I've done so much golfing, and besides being in a situation where you have to golf with business partners or prospective clients, it does not feel enjoyable. With work needs online, it is only slightly better than the office. Don't even get me started on how absolutely terrible golf is for the environment. The water waste and hideous, overgroomed landscape scream, I hate nature. Story 12. Tabletop gaming attracts both the big schmucks and the kindest nerds with very little in between. If you like board games, you often enjoy mental effort in a comfortable setting and the small community, or you like knowing how to bend every rule to make the Monopoly board your own little slice of fascism. Speaking of fascism, if you're into wargaming, you often enjoy small-scale art projects, detailed crafting, long-format lore videos, strategic puzzles, competition, and honestly just crazy statistical improbabilities. Or you enjoy playing in a setting you think justifies your narcissism, your racism, bigotry, or something else just as evil. Just let me have my faction with universal healthcare in-game without having to fight Illinois fascists in real life, please. RPGs have a whole host of potential issues I don't feel like diving into. Suffice it to say, sometimes the best character development happens in real life. I'll add social deduction and mystery party games to the list too. Agatha Christie was right. They destroy families if you have just one bad apple spoiling the lot. I haven't delved too far into the puzzle community, so maybe that one is safe, if only because it's so often solitary, but I doubt it. Just remember the golden rule, everyone. We're all at the table to have fun. If only one person is having fun and it's not a puzzle, step back and reevaluate. Story 13. Surfing, it's fun and healthy, but it is being taken over by complete schmucks. You've got the yoga retreat crowd that is completely insufferable. Then you've got the BJJ crowd that is basically the male version of the yoga surfer crowd. Then you've got the older local schmucks who are kinda needed but are still mostly schmucks. On top of all that, you've got the Costco Wavestorm schmucks. But the worst of all the schmuck surfing subcultures are the people trying to make money off surfing through social media, surf school gimmicks, surf brands, or developers destroying the beaches and monopolizing surf spots in third world countries, effectively keeping the locals out of the water. Surfing is such a selfish sport, it breeds schmucks. As a surfer myself, I do realize how much I'm coming off as a schmuck in this rant. It's just basically inevitable. Yours truly, a schmuck surfer guy. Story 14. Someone said Pokemon scalpers, but I'm going to expand that. All card games. You will never meet a worse bunch of people, even with scalpers aside. The people who play them are some of the most socially maladjusted people you will ever meet. Their hygiene is awful to the point where official tournaments have to put in rules about using deodorant or face disqualification. Even when playing just for fun at these shops, these people will be schmucks to everyone, even children. A 9-year-old just starting makes a small mistake and wants to take it back. Sweaty muck-schmuck beard is going to cry over it and tell them they can. They will steal from you without hesitation. If you leave a single thing worth 5 cents down and take your eye off of it, it's gone. Every single tournament has announcements about entire backpacks or binders getting stolen. Everyone is trying to take advantage of everyone else. When I played, if a trade was a couple of bucks off, whatever, close enough. But so many people will want their extra $1.20 in PayPal, or they'll tell you they only give you 70% value on trades like they're vendors. Then the real vendors will say they only give 50% on trades. The amount of times I heard pawn shop pitches like cash is king, that's value right now, I have to hold on to the risk, as justification for ripping people off is crazy. Overall, I truly believe TCG people are some of the worst people you will ever meet. Story 15. Each hobby is going to have its pieces of crap, it's just unavoidable, but if I were going to pick, I'd say skiing, the car/motorcycle scene, and golf. These are 3 hobbies I enjoy and have met many people in. I would say golf is the one where I've run into the least amount of schmucks, which is surprising to me. I say that because I really suck at golf, and usually when I keep hitting bad shots and a group of older guys is behind me, they don't get crappy because I'm taking forever. Instead, I've had guys actually try to help me with my swing and give me small tips. Then again, I don't play at a fancy or challenging course, lol. Story 16. Speaking in generalizations, any hobby that is mostly a passive or watching kind of thing, being a fan, basically, I found that almost no matter how pretentious a hobby sounds, if someone is pouring their effort and time into it and doing it well, that hobby can be fascinating. The depths people get into for crafting the perfect cup of coffee, wood carving, tuning the perfect bicycle, or perfecting a sound system, almost any of it can be interesting, if a bit bourgeois. Story 17. Yeah, people. Despite what most people may think, you can buy a small cruising one for about $10K, do a short course, and you're on your way. Basically a caravan on the water. The absolute snobbery, the vibe of the yacht clubs, the amount of rules and being talked down to is wild, but that's generally just from the folks who buy a yacht and gut it for racing. All they talk about is money. On the other hand, the old quiet weather beat true sailors who solo around the world are absolutely amazing people. Story 18. Car and bike enthusiasts. I used to live in an apartment complex where some little schmuck was practically in love with his car and its crappy fart can exhaust. The schmuck didn't even live in the complex, but loved to come by late at night to tear through the concrete garage just to drive in circles for a couple of minutes. Since the car was already loud, it was even louder speeding through a concrete garage. Several tenants asked or outright told him to knock it off, but he took it as a challenge. When many of us had finally had enough, he'd try to change up his schedule, coming around at different times or taking different routes to get to that garage. One of the tenants got fed up enough that he followed the guy home. He got his plates and address and, according to him, took that information to his attorney to send a cease and desist. The driver decided that was yet again another challenge, so a few days later he came back and did donuts for about 30 minutes. The same guy who sent the cease and desist went out and confronted him. He hit the car with his fist and the schmuck got out to fight him. The tenant gave him ample opportunity to rethink his choices, but he still tried to fight. Keep in mind that this tenant was about 6'5" and 250 pounds of pure muscle. The tenant gave him a King Leonidas kick to the chest and knocked the driver to the ground after the driver tried to take a swing at him. He then grabbed him by his hair and landed 3 solid punches to the kid's face. That was the most satisfying takedown I've seen in my life. Other tenants came by to witness the whole crap show and the cops were called. Since we all saw the driver try to attack the tenant, he spent a night in jail and his car got towed. The little schmuck realized we weren't going to let him leave until the cops got there and started bawling his eyes out like a little witch. He also made a comment that I'm surprised didn't get his jaw busted. In his incessant crying, he said, "Bro, I'm only 20 years old. I'm practically a minor. All kids make mistakes." This little crap had the wherewithal to know exactly what he was doing and then had some crappy excuse locked and loaded for if and when he got caught. In the same apartment, there was a different group of kids who had a crappy truck with an air horn. One of those horns that sound like a train. They thought they were hot crap because of it and would periodically parade through the property honking at people for no reason. This went on for considerably less time as no doubt the cops caught them somewhere else and they probably got stopped for improper horn usage. Story 19. Card games, but it's worth it for the kindness and sense of community part of it. Each one has its own specific flavor, a schmuck that ruins it for everyone. Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the competitive scene looking down on casuals and the inability to play for fun. Anytime a new format comes out, no one's interested unless there is a major tournament and world events. If it's not competitive, it's not worth touching. This would be fine, but it has caused anyone who doesn't play that way to get crap on. If you post a deck list for a non-meta deck you like and ask for tips for fixing it up, you'll get, "Yeah, you take out these 40 garbage cards and play a real freaking deck. You know you're just gonna lose to the meta, right?" Or, "Ew, why don't you play a good deck instead?" And so on. When all you really wanted were some tips to make your deck a little better for your casual games. Every deck that isn't meta is the worst unusable piece of crap I've ever seen, when in actuality, it's not just meta, but it is a fun deck to mess around with your friends over some drinks and snacks. I think a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players would benefit from playing a casual game with a mid to bad deck with their friends more often. Magic's is the gatekeeping. If you only or primarily play Commander, you're not a real Magic player. You got into Magic through a crossover card or set, you're not a real Magic player. You don't like the lore and instead appreciate the gameplay aspects, you're not a real Magic player. That Wild West theme set, that's not a real Magic set. The Nordic one is, though. That racing theme set, that's not a real Magic set. The steampunk one is, though. That haunted house set, that's not a real Magic set, but the gothic horror one that's almost the same exact thing, except it focuses on different genre aspects, is, though. I'm tired of this is real magic, that's fake magic for everything. All magic is real magic. They're almost all lovingly made by people who love the game and want to explore new territory while tweaking past mechanics in new ways. If you play Commander, you're valid. If you play Draft, you're valid. If you play Outlaws at Thunder Junction, you're valid. If you don't like any of those things, you're valid. Just be nice to each other for schmuck's sake. Pokemon is the scalpers. Pokemon gets scalped the most, and the worst part is that it's for kids. It's a game targeted at kids. Okay, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic are mostly played by adults. Scalping sucks there, but whatever. This one is for kids, dude. Kids can't go into stores anymore and buy a pack of cards or a structure deck because these schmucks keep buying them up. It sucks going to a Walmart or a Target and seeing a kid or a preteen in the card game aisle being sad because they can't find the newest Pokemon set because some schmuck bought all of them and is selling them on eBay for 12 times the price. The thing is, though, if you can't ignore these guys, if you can just get past these gatekeepers, meta-only schmucks, and scalpers, getting deep into a card game community is so lovely. Get-togethers with friends to play some Commander, live streams from Yu-Gi-Oh! Players to chill and chat about the game they love, charity events, a sense of community, and welcomeness is all there. Story 20. Tabletop wargaming, specifically miniature building, collecting, and painting. It may not attract the biggest schmucks, but it certainly attracts a good amount. In my experience, there are schmucks who will critique your every artistic decision for no reason other than to put you down. See, look how I painted this pauldron differently than you. Isn't mine better? There are schmucks who critique your choice of game. 40K is just so poorly balanced. Age of Sigmar is a much better game and nobody should financially support 40K. Or, Games Workshop is so terrible, how dare you support them by buying miniatures you like? Not to mention the 3D printer elitists. 3D printing is like way cheaper, right? What an idiot you are for wasting your money on buying the kits. Like, dude, maybe I don't want to pick up a third hobby related to this game. And finally, I'm pretty sure everyone in the tabletop wargaming space has heard horror stories of gotcha moments at tournaments, more experienced players bringing competitively medalists to friendly, casual games, and rules lawyers who will bog you and the referees down at tournaments contesting your every move. And if you're relating to any one of these stories so far, especially if you're one of the players in one of these hobbies, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 21. Four-wheel drive owners can be schmucks. Some are great, but plenty are terrible. I'm into a bit of four-wheeling and I've seen some absolute gronks on the tracks and people posting themselves online. I'm a firm believer in looking after the tracks so they can be enjoyed by the next person. I've met a fair amount of guys who go out wheeling just to tear up the trails and be really unsafe. I watched a guy in a twin-lock, 6-inch lifted, screw-off rig just rip the guts out of this trail, making a whole heap of noise for a social media post, and nearly rolling his vehicle with his kids in it multiple times. Whereas my basically stock patrol was able to idle through the same track and cause no harm to the trail or put anyone in danger. The amount of car parts and rubbish I find on the sides of these trails is disgusting too. I often come home with a bootload of junk that I take to the tip. So many good tracks are being shut down because people are ruining the hobby. Story 22. For over 20 years, I was part of our local car tuning scene and had my own car club. I am someone who likes car tuning for myself and doesn't care about what other people think of it, just like I do tattoos for myself and not to attract others. That being said, oh lord, there are so many obnoxious people in that scene, which is the reason most people look down on car tuning. Stupidly loud cars revving their engines at every traffic light, trying to do a burnout on the road and so on. Also, there was a lot of garbage left after a meeting, like put your frickin' McDonald's bags in your car or put them in a bin. It's not that hard. Also, everything about horses. Story 23. Astrophotography is the total opposite despite having a lot of conditions that would promote that. The gear is crazy expensive. There is a competitive aspect to it, taking the best photos. There is a really steep learning curve and there is a huge old guard. You'd think it would devolve into a competition over who could sink the most money into snake oil, alongside gatekeeping each other's photos for stupid reasons. Even with all of that, it's actually the total opposite. Everyone is super nice, they will help you find deals on gear, and there are tons of people who spend their time making tutorials and, in some cases, fully open source computer programs to help you take and process your data. Everyone I've talked to is very humble and nice and genuinely wants to share their love of space with others. Maybe it's because it's so niche. Story 24. Pen and paper RPGs attract a very particular kind of rude people. The game requires one person, the game master, to put in a fair amount of work to design a fun adventure for the other players. This effort is often rewarded with extremely dramatic, flaky, and uncommunicative people either canceling without notice or expecting to have every one of their whims catered to, while they can't be bothered to learn the most basic rules of the game. Also, many game masters themselves become power-tripping schmucks. There is a lot of self-important preaching about how their favorite system is the best at everything. Story 25. What I'm getting out of this is every hobby that has a modicum of competition is full of schmucks. As a car guy, I came here to say that cars attract the biggest schmucks, but this thread pointed out that anything with inherent competition is saturated with them. And honestly, I agree. I think it's the competition and the constant I have to be better than everyone else to feel valued mindset that makes it happen. I don't think any one of these hobbies makes it happen. Except coal rolling. I learned that's a thing from this thread. Those people are schmucks before they even show up. It should not be legal. Story 26. Magic the Gathering is one. I've got a whole lot of those old school neckbeards, so many guys who get most of their self-worth from being good at it, along with being crappy towards people who are newer and might not get some of the mechanics or what have you. Warhammer 40,000, 40k, anything that's grimdark tends to attract people who are way too into stuff like that. With that being said, the average person who is into it is far from being the very worst. Fitness-based hobbies can too, from the sort who are into bodybuilding and take it way too seriously, expecting everyone to be on their level of knowledge and experience right away, to the odd corners that are so concerned with being against bullying, and anything that might make someone feel bad about their appearance. While most communities for it are fine, this specific grouping of people ends up being as crappy as the people they are trying to fight. The very same people who are so concerned about bullying end up being the ones doing it in the end. It's more about the rush from raging out than any sincere or genuine type of care. Story 27. Wrestling fans are pieces of crap. I'm not talking about 10-year-old Johnny or Sarah who go to a WWE show with their parents once a year and watch the show on TV. I'm talking about the schmuck who uses the insider lingo, rate matches, buy all the t-shirts, and use the term work rate. These guys are gatekeepers, some of the most obnoxious people I've ever run into. They are similar to the MAGA crowd in that they defend their company when it does BS while condemning the other. They are simply the worst people out there. They say the most awful crap about people. Several weeks ago, a retired female wrestler made a simple comment about hoping the wrestlers don't get hurt, and the fans of that dumb company based in Jacksonville went after her and pestered her like she was a piece of garbage. Avoid the Internet Wrestling Community IWC, avoid r/squared circle, avoid that cage match website. If you have a friend or family member who visits those places frequently, just know that they suck as people. Story 28. Going to get rinsed for this, but Warhammer 40k players. I say this as someone who likes the hobby, but sheesh, the amount of sexism, white knighting, and gatekeeping in that hobby is nuts. It got to a point where I just gave up going to gaming clubs as they usually devolve into some incel crap. It's a shame because there are some really solid folks in the hobby. It's just a shame about the rest of them. In the 40k subreddit, there's a woman who's 3D printing 7 to 10 foot scale models. Whenever she posts an update, purely the model with her posed next to it, there's usually a mod comment along the lines of, "Stop reporting her for thirst trap. Nothing in this post is about thirst trap." Story 29. I don't know if this is just where I live, but the people who get serious about pickleball are freaking schmucks. They will never acknowledge or even say "good game" to people who are newer. They just ignore them and walk away, only saying "good game" to the people they think are good. And this is the worst story I saw. 2 teams were playing for about 2 hours on 2 courts with a 3rd court being open. Then a team of casual players came up and were getting ready to play, putting on music and everything. Then the schmuck friends showed up, so the schmucks came up and poached that court from the casual players, even though they were clearly setting up to play and the schmuck had already played for 2 hours. So many of them are like that too. Story 30. Pokemon collecting. I'm not saying all Pokemon collectors are schmucks, but it attracts some massive ones. I've seen grown men pushing kids out of the way at stores and a 40-year-old man who literally argued when he tried to buy everything the shop had in stock while standing in front of a 10-year-old kid who just wanted a single box with his birthday money. Shops have been broken into the night before big releases, and I've seen fights break out in the queue on big release days. Many stores have stopped stocking Pokemon these days because of how badly the hardcore collectors behave on big release days. Loads of stores now won't sell sealed product and insist on breaking the seal so you can't scalp the box online. It's utter insanity when a business refuses to sell a high-demand product because of the stupid customers who can't behave themselves. Story 31. Bicyclists, and I'm not talking about people who ride a mountain bike to work or the ones who use a bike to transport their stuff to and from their homes. I'm talking about the e-bike and road bike people. Road bike people will tell you that shaving off a few pounds on their bike by buying a $10,000 frame and $5,000 in parts can make you 2 miles per hour faster on average, all while wearing skin-tight pants and shorts with sports glasses and an elongated helmet to further increase aero. The e-bike people are right up there on that level of cost, also while stating that cars need to respect them when they are on the road. Even though there is a legal limit to the speed of an e-bike, they still want the one that can go 70 miles per hour and then swerve and dip between lanes, acting like they are untouchable. YouTubers like Sir Ronster claim they do everything legally to their e-bikes, but they give tips on how to unlock speed limits on every e-bike they own and film themselves breaking laws on a consistent basis. In some cases, he gives links on where to buy them and tries to imply you don't need a license to ride a bike that can go 60 miles per hour just because it has pedals. And I gotta be honest, I would have gotten an e-bike, but one kid on the street going 50 miles per hour on an e-bike while I was on my first motorcycle convinced me that their mindset was not on their own safety or the safety of others. It was just to do things illegally for fun. Story 32. Train photography. The lighting is coming from the wrong angle. Why would you waste my time by posting this to the group? There's a pole, signal, crossing gate, or tree between you and some part of the 1,800-meter-long vehicle you photograph. Why would you waste my time by posting this to the group? This quick snap you posted of an interesting movement, just to give people a heads up that it's going their way, isn't a very artistic photo. Why would you waste my time posting this in the group? I'd rather crap in my hands and clap than share pics of the cool stuff I see nowadays. Story 33. Weightlifting has got to be up there, and I say this as someone who's lifting at the gym 3 to 5 times a week myself. I don't mean general fitness/health people who are all normal. I mean people, almost exclusively men, who have built their whole identity around getting as big as possible. Maybe it's because peds have melted their brains or something, but there are a few of them at my gym and interacting with them is consistently miserable, and they're there all the time. A weird mixture of aggression, insecurity, and entitlement seems to be the general vibe. The fact that they are, in fact, huge and probably could mess you up in a physical fight doesn't help. One guy was in the sauna playing a pretty raunchy podcast on his phone speakers, and when another guy asked him to use headphones, the dude blew up. Story 34. Golf. Nothing turns a chill dude into an insufferable schmuck faster than handing him a set of clubs and access to a country club. Suddenly, he's lecturing you about grip pressure and tempo on the driving range, correcting your swing uninvited, bragging about his scratch handicap that somehow never shows up on scorecards, and dropping casual lines like, yeah, I shot a 78 at Pebble last summer. The slow play, the tantrums over a bad lie, the $500 drivers they replace every season, the loud phone calls on the fairway. It's like the hobby comes with a built-in ego inflation kit. Honorable mentions to CrossFit and crypto trading, but golf takes the cake for producing the most consistently schmucky behavior disguised as tradition and etiquette. Story 35. Duck hunting. Talk to any duck hunter, and they'll tell you some version of waking up early and setting up on public land a few hours before shooting light. Then some dude comes in, walks through your decoys, and tries to set up 20 minutes before shooting opens. Most stories usually have a good solution. You holler over at the guy, offer to just hunt together, and everybody has a good morning. 90% of the time, however, the dude refuses. He sets up 75 yards away, and then you both call and shoot at the same birds for 20 minutes until he peppers you with steel and you go home angry. I'm sure the big game hunters who generally have to walk around a bit more have it even worse. Story 36. Magic the Gathering. It's either overly vocal, whiny, vulnerable types who are the victims in everything and offended by everything, or it's overly vocal, right-wing incel losers who also somehow are the victims in everything and offended by everyone. I love the game, but I hate the people. Reddit also makes every single hobby or interest I have or event I attend seem like it's not as good as it used to be, always been crap, supremely offensive to some statistically insignificant but overly representative minority group that somehow holds influence over the whole community, and all of the above. Story 37. The folk punk music scene. I enjoy a lot of music from that genre, but the people it attracts are the worst of the worst. For a scene that really likes to posture as a community where people take care of one another, it's a pretty safe space for predators. There are lots of self-righteous people ready to lecture and cancel anyone who doesn't meet their highly subjective purity tests, mostly because they perceive themselves as the highest moral authority because they can name-drop philosophers, despite never actually reading their work or anything at all. Also, they smell bad, so that alone makes attending any folk punk show a bad experience even if you avoid speaking to or interacting with anyone. Story 38. Surfing. It's far from the chill dude culture that you see on TV. It's a lot of aggressive adults acting like babies and fighting over waves. They're mad because they drive 20 to 30 minutes to the beach, find parking, get dressed, and sit there for 2 hours just to have a few minutes of fun catching waves. So naturally, they're angry if someone takes the wave they waited for. All that for what? Just so they can brag to non-surfers that they went surfing? Most people who say they surf don't actually surf all the time. It's just not economical for most people who can't afford a beachfront house or don't want to live in a van and sleep in it. So most of the people are just using it to bragging about how they're living it up or saying, the ocean, man, it just speaks to me. They're just following a certain stereotype because they saw that other people think it's cool. Story 39. I've sort of rapid-fired through hobbies in the last 5 years or so, collecting guitars, cooking, pizza making, basketball, music, mountain biking, gravel biking, watch collecting, Lego, PC gaming, woodworking, piano, synthesizer, darts, espresso, and reading fantasy and horror. My conclusion is that schmucks are just human nature and exist everywhere. No matter what hobby you get into, there will be schmucks. It always comes down to the amount of money spent on the hobby and gatekeeping the hobby for newcomers. An American-made Fender guitar is leagues ahead of your crappy Chinese-made Squier. After owning both? Nope, not anymore. CNC machines have basically leveled the playing field. My custom-shot Fender is leagues ahead of your crappy American-made Fender. Again, nope, no matter what hobby you go into, you can't escape it. I put the blame at the feet of YouTube. Story 40. Karaoke. A lot of Brits visiting foreign countries will go into large groups to karaoke bars and literally ruin everyone else's time by intentionally singing badly and very loudly. They talk and laugh extremely loudly when someone else is on stage singing to the point where you can barely hear the performer. On the other hand, if you are a regular at a karaoke place, you are going to meet a lot of artsy high school graduates or conservatory university students. They are the worst. They bring substances, alcohol, and are very indecent or have anarchic behavior. They have extreme mood swings that can turn violent on the spot, and they are often mean and extra, even to your face. It's a crap show when these kinds of artsy groups become regulars. My friends and I would literally avoid certain karaoke places even if they have the best aesthetics and mic mix just because of the negative energy these artsy groups bring. Story 41. As a motorcyclist, I would say motorcycle riding, LOL. I recognized it in my own community within the first month of joining. There was even a very famous moto vlogger on YouTube years ago. I forgot his name because I don't let schmucks live rent-free in my head, LMAO. Who was the biggest tool you could ever imagine. He would ride recklessly on his Ducati and then flip his crap at drivers over anything, not even big mistakes. He was the biggest crybaby schmuck. Anyway, I've been on group rides before and I have already encountered a handful of these types just in the small circles I know, LOL. Story 42. Citizens band CB radio. There are people who run massive amplifiers, which they most definitely acquired illegally, powered by massive generators, which they probably also acquired illegally, and they will take over an entire channel, sometimes for hours, and can be heard all over North America. One of them, for a while, took over one of the most popular channels, Channel 19, for truck drivers and anyone on the road. He rambles about window lickers and how everyone has an inferior or trash radio, claiming that only he knows how to modify them and whatnot. He constantly says he's going back to the bench, but then he'll immediately start rambling about the same BS all over again. Story 43. Pretty much every hobby I've ever engaged with has master schmucks. Ratios are just higher in some. Woodworking, they aren't schmucks necessarily, but some are very pretentious gatekeeping and a holier-than-thou attitude goes on in this hobby. Golf, this one's obvious. Rec soccer, guys act like it's the World Cup or think they are the crap. It's a co-ed Sunday league, bro, relax. Card collecting, sports, and TCG, the scalping in TCG is nutty, and the frat bro breakers are a big crap stain on the sports card community. Lots of older vendors at card shows are giant smucks for no reason, too. It's cardboard, man. If you hate people and the hobby so much, liquidate and don't be a vendor anymore. Story 44. When Title IX broke, a close friend's daughter in Virginia started getting real interest from USC and UCLA. The coaches invited them out, so they flew to California, watched the team play, and toured the campus. They went to the game and the place was packed. My friends came home absolutely stunned. They said the atmosphere wasn't like a volleyball game as we knew it on the East Coast with polite claps and a few nice save comments. This was something between a rock concert and a major sporting event. Music blasted at every timeout and the whole crowd sang along. People were yelling, clapping, stomping, and roaring during points like it was a rivalry football game. The energy never dipped for a second. Afterward, my friends were literally breathless like they'd just run a 5K in the bleachers. They joked that they thought the father might have had a heart attack or a stroke because of how intense it felt. And that is big-time women's sports with real crowds, real noise, and real electricity. In the end, she chose to go to college in-state. They felt they simply couldn't drop what they were doing to fly out to California for every big game. Story 45. Anything focused on speculation, rarity, and trading, that kind of thing. Those people who raid Costco for Pokemon cards come to mind, but every hobby is susceptible. In my hobby, a subset of plant husbandry, there is definitely a certain type of bro who will literally only grow the rarest and most expensive, high-demand stuff, and will get all crappy about it if you engage in the hobby in a different way. I went to an auction held for a member of our society who had recently passed away and whose wife was selling his collection. The bros showed up and were laughing and making a spectacle right in front of her, even pestering people for cuttings from their winnings. This disrespectful, clout-based vibe truly ruins it for the rest of us. Story 46. Sports cards. It's become money-driven, and because of that, athletes don't like signing at games anymore. They're tired of 45-year-old dudes with stacks of base cards they bought for $1 hoping to sell them for $200. You can't really trade a good card for a good card anymore. It's always, I want to give you 10 $10 cards. They'll sell slowly for your $125 card that is liquid, or they offer a $60 card for it. Then there are the card snobs. A lot of people will trash someone's collection if they don't have a box full of $100 to $2,500 cards. They treat new collectors who are trying to understand the variations like they're stupid. Long story short, it's just a bunch of schmucks trying to make money off of you. Such is life. Story 47. Crypto trading as a hobby has to be near the top. Speculation itself isn't evil, but the culture around it is basically a magnet for people who want status without substance. The markets move so violently that every gambler convinces themselves that they're a financial visionary. And the fantasy of fast money attracts folks who think effort is optional if they've seen the future. It's like the lottery, except with more graphs and significantly more smugness. There's also zero barrier to pretending you're an expert. You don't need credentials, results, or even basic economic literacy. You just need a Twitter account, a Discord server, and the ability to say bullish a lot. The mythology that we're the geniuses and everyone else is a normie is ego crack for insecure people. Narcissists love stories where they're misunderstood prophets. The jargon makes it worse. Blockchain has just enough technical depth that anyone can hide behind buzzwords. If you don't understand it, you're told it's because you're small-brained. If you do understand it and criticize it, you're poor or cope posting. Accountability doesn't exist either. When trades hit, they're gurus. When trades crash, it was market manipulation. Heads, they brag. Tails, they vanish. And of course, the flexing is baked right in. Screenshots of trades, rented Lambos, luxury watches, Telegram cult followings. The whole thing runs on social status signaling. Quiet, sober developers exist, sure, but the loudest part of the scene is gamblers cosplaying as revolutionaries. That's why the schmuck's density feels unusually high. And if any of these stories got to YouTube, well, here's more for us. YouTube thinks we're gonna love this. I'll catch you in that video.